Variety is the spice of life. It's also really important for helping swimmers learn new skills and helping them go faster. If they keep doing the same old thing over and over and over again, they're not going to continue to improve. Let's take a look at a strategy to help fix that. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. Two keys for learning: novelty, variation. If they're not present, swimmers are going to be getting the same stimulus over and over and over again, and while repetition is absolutely critical for learning, repeating the same thing over and over again is not. So to help swimmers continue to learn, we have to provide them with a variety of experiences. However, the solution is not necessarily to change the drills that swimmers are using, it's to change how they're performed. Let's take a look at how to make it happen. When helping swimmers improve, the reality is that even the best drills will stop working. Doesn't matter how good it is, doesn't matter how effective it is, if swimmers are doing the same thing over and over and over again, they will gradually learn less, and eventually they won't learn anything at all. So all drills are going to stop working no matter how good that drill is. So novelty and challenge are needed for learning. If swimmers aren't challenged, if they aren't given something that's difficult in some way, they're not going to learn. And if they're given the same thing over and over again, at some point, that no longer becomes challenging. So even the perfect drill is no longer going to be novel, it's no longer going to be a challenge. Now, you can change the drills and that will create novelty, but novelty doesn't necessarily mean effectiveness and it doesn't necessarily mean specificity. And so whatever drills you do, they have to actually work. They have to be something that helps swimmers learn a new skill, and it has to be the skill that you want them to learn. So from my perspective, you should always be using the most effective drills because it doesn't make sense to use drills that aren't as effective. It will take more work, it'll take more time, and it won't work as well. So if changing the drills isn't the right answer, how do we get novelty? How do we get challenge? Well, when swimmers have all the answers, when they can execute those drills pretty well and they're no longer being challenged to improve, we have to change the questions that we're asking them. We have to change the challenges that we're putting in front of them. Instead of changing the drills, we can change how the drills are performed. Instead of changing the drills, we can change how the sets are constructed. So now we can create totally new learning experiences, totally new stimuli to help swimmers improve. And we can do so without changing the drills so that we can continue to use the most effective drills, which is going to help swimmers improve as much as possible. How do we do that? There are a ton of different ways. So you can create different versions of the drills. Ask for different performance goals. Ask for speed, stroke rate, stroke count, and ask for those performance goals in lots of different ways. You can use different training aids. So there are tons of different training aids you could use, and they can all be effective at changing how the drill is performed and what's required of swimmers to execute that drill effectively. You can add resistance, and then within resistance, there are a lot of different types, and they all have different effects. They're going to challenge swimmers to execute a given drill in different ways. You can use different hand postures, so you can have them go with closed fist, you can put paddles on them, you can have them wear one paddle, you can have them pinch the paddles, you can have them go one hand closed, one hand open. Again, lots of different variations, lots of different versions and options. All of these strategies can be very effective for dramatically changing what swimmers have to do to execute or perform the drill effectively. You can also vary the different versions. And so there's pretty much an unlimited number of options here in terms of drill variations you can create. And you can go beyond that by changing how you design the sets using those different versions. So you can use multiple strategies within a set. So you can have them change their hand posture and use a different training aid. And you can change how they're performing the drill on a repetition basis. Not only are they going to be challenged by performing a different variation of the drill, they're going to have to switch how they execute the drill based upon the variation that you present to them. The more often you change the variation, the more challenging that's going to be. So when they start to have answers to the drill that you present to them, you just keep asking different questions and challenge that drill in different ways. The more different ways you can challenge it, and then ultimately the more ways they can successfully navigate those different variations, the more skilled they're going to become. Now, when it comes to implementing this strategy, there are important considerations here. First, everything is on the table. Any option can be potentially useful. There's two different ways to think about it. You can include variation for a purpose or just variation for variation. So what I mean by that is if you have someone working on some sort of drill that's helping them create more propulsion, adding a stroke count and asking them to take fewer strokes will serve a specific purpose to encourage them to create more propulsion. They've got to execute the drill and get more out of each stroke when they perform the drill. So the stroke count has a specific purpose. You're varying the drill to accomplish a specific task. In contrast, variation for variation's sake, we can just have them perform the same drill, but in lots of different ways, and we're not necessarily concerned with the specific impact of the variation. We just want them to do something different. So using that same example, if there's a drill aimed at helping swimmers create more propulsion, we can just have them use 6 different types of resistance. Again, we don't really care about the specific impact each type of resistance has on the swimmers. We just want them to be performing the drill in a lot of different ways to help them figure out how to execute the drill at a higher level. So you can introduce a different variation to solve a specific problem, or you can just introduce variation to require them to switch up what they're doing. Now, when introducing variations, the important thing is to make sure whatever variation you introduce, make sure that they get the hang of it. So if you're going to combine 4 different strategies, let's say you give them a stroke count, you give them a parachute, you give them a buoy, and you make them close their fist, well, that's 4 different components. If they can't execute one of those components by themselves, if just using a parachute is a challenge, for instance, or if just using closed fists is a challenge, for instance, it doesn't make sense to combine them all. So make sure that they have some level of competency within the individual pieces before you start adding them together, or before you start rotating between the different variations when they're very unskilled at any one variation. You want to challenge them, you want to give them novelty, but you don't want to overwhelm them. Then you can start adding more layers. You can add multiple strategies to the same drill, or you can have them rotate through different strategies more often. So again, as I said, you want enough variation to challenge them, but not to overwhelm them. They should still be relatively successful, and when they are, you can just keep escalating the challenge to put them under more and more pressure to help them learn better and better skills. So in this set, the drill we're focused on is paddle cap freestyle to help swimmers learn how to keep their head moving straight down the pool and how to breathe effectively. So we're going to challenge that drill in several different ways here. So first off, we're going to go 425s paddle cap with a buoy. The buoy is going to change their rotation. That's going to influence how they execute that breath and how they do so with that rotation. We're also going to ask them to descend those 1 to 4. Then they're going to go 225s paddle cap freestyle without the buoy. 1, getting super long, as few strokes as possible. Number 2 is strong. Then they're going to go 50 freestyle solid effort just to see if they can execute that great breathing. Then the next half, instead of using a buoy, we're going to have them go tennis balls for those first 4. So now they've got to learn how to pull effectively, and they have to do that with the paddle cap breathing. And so if they pull their head to the side and they're using their hand to scull, that's not going to work because they have the tennis ball. So we've escalated the challenge in that respect using the tennis balls. Then the 225s are done the same way, and the 50 freestyle is now done strong effort instead of solid effort. See if they can execute the breathing a little bit better with a little bit more speed. And then by round, we're going to challenge their breathing in multiple ways. They're going to go left-right by 25 on round 1. They're going to alternate breathing every 3 and every 5 on round 2. On round 3, they can choose their breathing pattern each repetition, but it has to change each repetition. So there's a lot of variation here. It's not just doing paddle cap freestyle. We've got speed changes, we've got stroke counts, we've got different training aids, and we've got different breathing patterns. So if swimmers have a lot of experience with that drill, that might be appropriate. If they don't have experience with all those different variations, just sticking with one makes sense, but once they do, it's time to escalate the challenge. In this set, we're working on pulling and breaststroke. So we're going to have them change their head position, which is going to influence how they pull. So the first rep, head up. The second rep, head down with no air. The third rep, they're going to alternate head up. So 1 stroke head up, 1 stroke regular. And then the next one, alternating head down. So 1 stroke head down, 1 stroke regular. And then the last 25 is just going to be regular breaststroke with dolphin kick. In each 25, they're still doing breaststroke with dolphin kick. We're still emphasizing the pull, but each repetition, they're changing their head position, which is going to challenge the pull. And then by round, we're challenging the performance expectation. Round 1, they're going to build to fast on every repetition and use upside down paddles. That's going to encourage them to use their whole forearm. The second round, they're going to minimize stroke count, and they have a parachute. So they're trying to stay long, and they have to overcome the resistance to do that. They're going to have to create a lot of propulsion. Round 3, they're minimizing stroke count and time on these, so being long and being fast. And then on round 4, they're just letting it rip. So no single 25 is going to be the same, and we're really forcing swimmers to explore how to get more out of their pull and breaststroke. This set, we're working on butterfly timing, and we're using one-arm butterfly as the core drill to help swimmers learn how to do so. So they have to kick when their hand enters, kick when their hand exits. It's a little bit easier for them to figure out when they're doing one-arm butterfly. So they're going 2 rounds through this. They're going to start off with 450s, one-arm butterfly, 25 left, 25 right. The odds, the non-working arm is going to be down by their side. The evens, the non-working arm is going to be up in front. And then on number 3 and number 4, they have to go faster at the same stroke count than they do at number 1 and number 2. So we're changing the side of the one-arm fly, we're changing the arm position on the one-arm fly, and then we're asking them to change their speed without changing their stroke count. Then they're going 425s butterfly solid effort, see if they can put that together. Next piece, they're going 4 100s one-arm butterfly. The first 50 is always with a closed fist. So the first one is always smooth, the second one is always solid, and then they'll repeat that for the next 2. So we're changing it up by asking them to change their speed, and they have to learn how to execute the drill well with a closed fist and an open hand. 4 more 25s butterfly, solid effort. Again, seeing if they can execute that great rhythm they're working on during the one arm. Next piece, they're going to go 8 25s, one-arm butterfly with drag socks. They're going to alternate 2 minimized stroke count, 2 that are strong. So they'll go 1 with the left arm minimized stroke count, 1 with the right arm minimized stroke count, 1 strong with the left arm, 1 strong with the right arm. So they've got the drag socks. They have to really establish that kick rhythm, and they got to work against the socks to do that. And they've got to navigate the stroke count, and they got to navigate their effort. Finish it off with 4 25s butterfly, solid effort, see if they can put that all together. Multiple variations of the same core drill here, and that's going to force swimmers to learn how to execute that drill at a higher level, and ultimately that should help them learn how to swim butterfly at a higher level as well. If you want another great strategy for how to make drills even more effective, check out the video below.